Hey everybody, this is Amanda Schmidt with Snappy New Day Art. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I am a watercolor instructor and I love to teach people who are new to watercolor how to stop being overwhelmed by teaching them projects in little bite-sized pieces. So this is a perfect project for you if you are new to watercolor or you just want to have a really fun summery themed project to do. So I'll be showing you all the little pieces and we'll get started, okay? So yeah, I thank you everybody for joining me. I know I am part of a summer collaborative with some of my favorite art people on all over the place on Facebook, and I'm so glad to be here. So thank you and hello to anybody that I'm new. I love doing watercolor. It's my favorite thing, and it's pretty much all I do anymore. So if you want to join us, this is a great project to get started on, okay? So let me show you my workspace here, and we'll get started, all right? So yeah, so I forgot something. Okay, at one point, I'll have to go and run and get something. I forgot. Oh well, that's okay. I just realized. No worries. And you know what? Today we're talking about, I'm going to be talking about perfection and basically how there's really not a place for it when you're making art. So, you know, I make boo-boos all the time. Like just now, I realized I forgot one of my things I need today. But that's okay. I'll just run out and run back in just a second. But we'll get started. And so we're doing this awesome umbrella beach scene today, and I'm going to be showing you two really cool tricks that will get us clouds and sand. So they are really fun. I love like little hacks for adding detail and texture in watercolor. It is a really fun thing to do. So hey Grace, good to see you. So yeah, if you guys are popping on, let me know where you are and where you are in the world, because I love seeing new people and new names and finding out where everybody's coming from. So I'm in the St. Louis area, so that's where I am. And so I am nowhere near a beach, which is probably why I love to paint beach scenes. So this is one of my favorites. And yeah, so the theme for our summer artist collaborative, sorry, something in my eye, is play. So I was like, ooh, play, play, play. And I'm like, ooh, the beach. Like, that's exactly where my mind went. Oh, hi, Rhonda. Good to see you. Hey, Elizabeth. And so, yeah, we're going to play at the beach today. So, yeah, I'm really excited. All right, so I already drew out my sketch, okay? So here's the deal. The sketch is super easy. And I did it in pencil first, okay? And then I traced over it with a micron pen. And the micron pens are really, really cool because, ooh, South Carolina. Hey, Heather. I love micron pens because you can watercolor over them as long as they're completely dry. You can watercolor over the pen marks when you use something like a micron pen. Or you could use a fine point Sharpie, that would work too. But basically what you do is you find a point up here and you do 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and then you just link them together with little arches, okay? And then I took a little straight edge and I drew the pole for my umbrella, and then I just made a little wiggly line out there for the background. So it's really easy peasy. And so you might notice that I have oh, and let me know too if you are oh yay Grace, I'm glad you're able to share it. I was paranoid. I wasn't I've been having some tech issues lately. Let me know if you are new to watercolor. I love teaching people who are just brand spanking new to watercolor and sharing what I know. So if you are new to watercolor, please let me know. And feel free to ask me any questions as I go about anything. I'll be happy to do my best to answer and just share what I know. Okay. Oh, hey, Melissa. So I have a piece of watercolor paper, like a half a sheet, and it comes in like I think 9 by 12, and I very often will tear it in half and just work with one half sheet at a time. I like to keep things small and sweet and simple, and so that's why a lot of times I work on a smaller piece of paper. You know, I just think that it usually just works for me. So, and I have taped it down on a piece of foam board, which I highly recommend. A foam board or something that you can move around, like even putting it on a clipboard or a piece of like really hard cardboard. That would work because sometimes it's helpful to move it around. So I have some painter's tape that I have taped down my paper, and we should be good to go. So as far as, and I have some clean water. You need some clean water, and I'm just going to use my regular old palette of paints. I use a lot of, let's see here, which brush do I want? I use a lot of a brand called Holbein, and I use a lot of Winsor Newton colors. So Winsor Newton colors are a very good, like easy to find brand of watercolor if you want to use the tubes of watercolor. So, hey Ashley, good to see you too. Thank you, dear. All right, so let's, which one do I want to do first? Let's paint the umbrella first, okay? So what's cool about this, and really anything, anytime you're doing art, you get to choose the colors. So I'm going to do one section at a time, okay? So here's the deal. Since I'm trying to do separate sections, you do have to be kind of careful. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that when we get to that point. But I'm using a round brush. And this is very, very helpful when you're doing lots of watercolor pieces. Many, I would say 90% of the time I'm using a round brush. It is really versatile. It's a great shape to have. And partly because it has a point. And the point is just so helpful when you're getting in those little nooks and crannies, okay? So, let's see here. I'm going to do, how about, you know what? I'm going to pick some different colors. I'm going to do a purple first. So I'm just going to grab some paint. And sometimes it helps to tilt your work up a little bit. I'm going to bring my paint down my umbrella. So yeah, I love doing watercolor. It is absolutely my favorite thing in the world. And I love helping people get started with it. And many times people don't get started doing art because they're perfectionists. And it comes out so much when we're doing art, you know, or when you're thinking about doing art. It's just one of those things. I don't understand it. I don't know why we do that to ourselves. You know, it's kind of like somebody told me one time, they're like, I don't know why we do that. You know, we don't expect to sit down at a piano and automatically know how to play. But when it comes to doing art, we hold such high standards for ourselves, even when we're beginners, that's not realistic. And so that perfectionist comes out in us a lot of times and takes the fun away. And then you lose momentum, and then you don't gain you know, the skills you want, and it doesn't look like you want, and then you just go and throw your hands up, right? So perfectionism is really the downfall of art projects. So let me know if you are a perfectionist. Now, when it comes to art, I have to say, there are other areas in my life where I'm a perfectionist, I find. Doing art is not one of them. If you hang out with me and watch me for any length of time, you will know that I make mistakes all the time. It's just what you do with them and how you look at them, you know. When I first started doing watercolor, Elizabeth says, "Yep." When I first started doing watercolor, I would work on something for a really long time, and then I would get to the end and really hate it. But I didn't really beat myself up about it. I was just like, well, I don't feel like I wasted my time. You know, even though I didn't end up with a final product, I don't feel like I wasted my time, you know? Oh, before I forget, guys, if you are new to watercolor and maybe you're a perfectionist, I have a really, really, really fun, where'd it go? Project for you, okay? It is watercolor tie-dye. This is a no mess up kind of project, all right? So if you are new to watercolor or you just think this looks like so much fun, because it is, go ahead and use the link. It should be in my description, and grab it. It's a free tutorial. It's really short. It's great for kids, adults, everybody. So grab it. It is so much fun. And I use this for, I use these sheets when I do these for all kinds of stuff. So I use them for note cards. I use them for bookmarks. I use them for like birthday cards and gift cards and stuff like that. So grab the little tutorial. It is totally free for you, perfect for summer. And I'm not going to keep it for very long. So make sure you grab it because the watercolor tie-dye is about to get retired. So yeah. All right, let's get back to our umbrella. Let's see what color. I need to put something here. Maybe I'll go with a yellowy orange. How about that? That sounds very bright and cheery, right? So let's see here. So now here's the deal. Watercolor likes to go into other watercolor. So you have to be, now here's the deal. If I were doing this not live, I would dry this with my heat gun or a hair dryer so it was totally dry. Just be careful if you're putting in a section of color and the areas around it are not dry, you have to be very careful not to get into that other color because it will run into your other color and mix. Now, here's the deal though. Sometimes that can be a good thing. Talk about perfectionism like not being necessary in watercolor. Sometimes when you, especially watercolor, because well, I think Sarah said it. Sarah said the other day, oh, I think the orange will make the blue pop too. That's right, Sarah, because what? They are complementary colors. In fact, Sarah, I was just about to say, you said the other day, and I totally agree. You said that watercolor is the only uncontrollable medium, and it truly is. So, you know, it's one of those things where if you're a perfectionist, watercolor is going to be a little bit of a challenge for you, right? Because you're going to have to give up a little control, and things may not turn out like you have in your noggin. That happens to me all the time. Yes. Yes, guys, thank you, Sarah. I probably should show you that. So to not let them bleed, what I do is I go in with the tippy tip of my brush and I just very delicately go around the shape of my umbrella here. So yeah, that's where a pointy brush is very helpful when you're getting into little areas and you want to make a line and that kind of thing. So yeah, you just use the tip of your brush to be very careful about where you put the boundaries of those colors. Okay, so let's see here. So what was I singing? I was saying, actually, I need to pick up my next color. Ooh, how about a green? That'll be good. Green will be very pretty. So yeah, so watercolor kind of forces you to kind of let go of that perfection. Um, because when you do, especially with watercolor, um, it allows you to come up with stuff that you may not realize will happen. Like little accidents happen in watercolor all the time that you couldn't have predicted, and it turns out even better than you had imagined. Yeah, you do have to have lots of patience with watercolor. Very, very true, Ashley. Very, very patient with watercolor. See, guys, how I'm kind of just bringing down the tip of my brush here to make sure I don't hit the blue if I can help it. There we go. Almost done with that. Oh, see, it bled in. You know what? It's going to be okay. Yeah, you do have to be very patient with watercolor, and that is tricky because sometimes you have to let things dry. But yeah, so it's one of those things where a lot of us are perfectionists, and it really comes out when it comes to doing art, you know. So I try to think, you know, how can we get past it? I gotta go grab one ingredient, guys. Can you be value shifting? Yes. Oh, Sarah, I love when you throw in those teacher terms because I need those. Right, I'm gonna be right back. I gotta go get my my little special ingredient. Okay, I'm back. Silly me, I forgot my fun special ingredient when we go to do the sand. So let me show you how we're gonna do the sand real quick because I think I want to let the rest of this umbrella dry. Special sauce, yes. All right, so I'm going to, this is what I want you to do. So on the umbrella, I just put my wet paint on the dry paper, and that in watercolor is called wet on dry. And that is a very useful technique a lot of times. There's also another technique that I love to use, which is wet on wet. So that means, Rhonda guessed it, that means we are going to wet the paper a little bit, and then we're going to put more paint on top. And it just creates a nice soft look. It's very interesting when you compare a wet on wet to a wet on dry, you know, color on the same piece of paper. It really, it's one of my favorite ways to use watercolor. So what I'm going to do, I have my brush full of water, clean water, and I'm going to just basically paint in the sand. I'm going to stay underneath that line here. And we're going to paint right over the ink lines too. With water. So we're basically kind of priming our paper with water first, okay? So you might be able to see, yeah, you can see it's shimmery, and you know you have enough water on there when it looks like the sun shining off of the snow. I heard somebody describe it that way one time, and I'm like, yes, that's perfect. So if you picture sun shining off the snow, that's exactly what it looks like, right? So you know you have enough water on your paper, all right? So now I'm going to grab a sandy kind of color. If you don't have, I'm going to use this color right here. Oops. If you don't have something like that, you can just use a yellow or a brown, whatever. There's different colored sands all over the world, right? Yes. All right, so I'm just going to put my paint on my paper. You kind of have to work a little bit quickly. Can't dilly-dally too much, because especially with this special ingredient, you want the paper to be pretty damp. Okay, there we go. All right, so now here's our special ingredient. Salt. So I'm using kosher salt. You can use probably regular salt. I usually use kosher salt because I kind of like the way the bigger little granules of salt look. So I'm going to sprinkle my salt all over my paper. Ooh, it's starting to thunder out there. And the cool thing about the salt is it will start to kind of suck up the paint in the water. So it's important that you have plenty of paint and plenty of water on your paper. Otherwise, the salt's just kind of going to sit there. It's not really going to do its magic. So, and then you just leave it be, okay? Don't mess with it. And it has to be completely dry before you shake it off. So I'll kind of show you that here in a second or later on. But so it's important to just leave it be. Mix yellow, brown with yellow. Yeah, you could mix brown with yellow for sand. That's a really good idea, Rada. All right, so for the sky, yeah, we had some big. A big thunderstorm earlier today. So, and I watered my garden this morning. I kind of wish I hadn't, so I hope I didn't just drown my whole garden. Oh well. All right, so yeah, so going back to the perfection thing. So, like, how can we get past it? So this theme of our summer collaboration of play is perfect because that, in my opinion, is the perfect antidote, is play. The antidote to perfection is play. Because when you think about it, if you're thinking of an art project or whatever as playing, then there's no wrong way to do it, right? Like when you think about little kids and they're playing, there's really no way to play wrong. Like there's no, because there's really no end goal except to feel good and have fun, right? So, that's what I recommend. So if you find yourself being a perfectionist and you're doing watercolor, especially if you're doing watercolor with me, please don't be a perfectionist because heaven knows that you'll see me mess up many times. But if you think about it as play, then it might make it a little bit easier. It's not like, we go to work and we have, goals and data and, there's always that end result that we're supposed to get or that we're trying to get. And then you have your boss that's, looking at all that and seeing, did you meet your goal? Did you do your job the right way? So no wonder we're all perfectionists in a lot of ways, right? It's like we've been, when we get into adulthood especially, we kind of get hardwired to not play. We can't play. We always have to be productive. Like we always have to have that thing, that we're trying to strive for. But with art, there's really not a place for that a whole lot of times. Because it should be play, All right, so guys, so you may have noticed I wetted I'm trying to do my sky now. So I wetted my paper, and now I'm going to work in just this section. We're going to do our sky. So this is where the tippy tip of my brush really comes in handy because I'm going to carefully, now in a perfect world, I would have a fast forward button and I would have dried my sand here so I don't run it into my blue sky, but we'll be okay. All right, so I just grabbed one of my favorite blues, especially for skies. And let's see here. I am putting my blue paint all over. Because when we go to the beach, the sky is one of the best parts. In my opinion. I don't know about you. What do you think? Okay, so here is our other fun texture trick, okay? So here's our sky. Pretty as it is, right? I think it's really nice. But we're going to add some clouds. So to do that, we are going to grab a tissue, okay? So you can use a lot of things to make your clouds. What brand of markers are good for watercolor so they don't bleed? I use micron pens a lot. So if you're doing the black outlines, Grace, I recommend a micron pen, which is this. Okay, or you can use a fine tip Sharpie. Those work good too. But with the micron pens, you can get a much smaller point than a fine tip Sharpie a lot of times. All right, so I'm going to take my tissue and start dabbing up some of the paint. So use it kind of loosely. And a tissue will give you some kind of nice crisp edges. You can also use toilet paper. Those will give you kind of a puffier cloud. So whatever clouds you're going for. I like to come in from the top here and do some clouds that way. There we go. So just keep dabbing up until you kind of get the look that you want. Is that fun or what? You have like legit clouds. So you're going to impress everybody that you show your beach scene to, even if you're new to watercolor. Have I used the, yeah, you know what, Ashley, I think I have used the Faber-Castell pens before. I just don't have any right now. I usually just go for the micron pens, but yeah, those are nice too. Oh, and okay, so the Tombow markers you could use on top. I love Tombow markers. But those you would have to use on top because they're water soluble. So you can use them as watercolor, but you can't use them underneath like we did our micron pens because they will run everywhere. So yeah, I love pens. I have quite a collection. Actually, I just was going through all my drawers and I'm like, I need to organize something fierce. I have like cups of random pens and pencil, like everything's all mixed up and ugh. So that's where my perfectionist comes in, where I'm like, I have got to organize. It doesn't come in my artwork. You know, but like if things start getting like disorganized, especially in my studio, it drives me bonkers. And so that's where my perfectionism comes out. Ooh, I'm gonna have to try them, Ashley. If you switched from the micron pens to the Faber-Castell brand, then I might have to try those. Are they archival ink? Do they? I'm assuming they don't run. They're like a micron pen in that facet. I'd love to know. Yeah. All right. So let's keep going with our sky. So there's my brush. Oh, and guys, if you're just popping in, earlier I showed you my free watercolor tie-dye tutorial. The link is in the description. It's super easy and really fun. And there's a special little trick to get the watercolor tie-dye effect, I call it. That is really fun. So there you go. So grab that. It's really short. Oh, good. They work with watercolor. Yay. Gives me something else to buy online right now. I love it. Maybe I can find them on sale. All right. So I'm wetting this other section of my sky here. Putting my blue back down. Okay, and so you can just leave that section of sky there if you want, or you can come back in and add a little bit of a cloud. Why not, right? I can just picture being there. Can't you? I woke up the other morning and I was like, oh. You know, when you wake up and you're on vacation, like that is like the nicest, just the nicest feeling, you know. And then like we love to go to Florida, and we'll stay in a condo, and like so you know you come out of the bedroom in the morning, and there's like big window and the ocean's right there. I was just like, oh, I'm missing that so much. So I think it's partly why I wanted to paint the beach. That is where I like to play. And by play, I mean like do nothing and lay under a beach umbrella. So there you go. There's more than one kind of play, right? There's play like having fun, and then there's play like just relaxing. Let me think. Tell me if you agree, because that's what my ideal is. Okay, guess what? We are done. So at this point, the only thing you have to do is let it dry. Okay, so now many times if you're doing watercolor, you can kind of speed up the process with a heat gun or a hair dryer. But since we have the salt on there, I would say I would just let it dry on its own. I find that you get it looks best when it's just dried naturally. So let this completely dry, and then and the salt is kind of tricky. Sometimes it takes longer than you think to dry. So make sure that it's totally not shiny underneath. Because if you go to brush off the salt, it's going to get paint, smear it everywhere. But when it is totally dry, here's a trick, okay? So to get the paint off, what you can do is take an old like gift card or an old credit card or something like that, and you just kind of scrape off the salt into a trash can, because it kind of likes to pop everywhere. But yeah, there you go. And then like if you are into lettering, you can do more with the pen. I like to do little outlines here and there. The beach is calling for sure. You can put whatever cute little saying you want, or you know, personalize it for somebody that you love. The possibilities are endless, you know. So I'm all done, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Make sure you sign up for the free watercolor tie-dye free tutorial. Thank you so much for sharing me, all my art friends. And I will see you. Let me make sure yeah, I don't have anything else to tell you except bye, and I'm so glad I got to paint with you. And if you ever want to do any watercolor, pop on over to Snappy New Day Art, okay? So thanks, guys. I will see you later, and have a snappy new day. Bye.